Okay, I'm back, and now we want to investigate pulleys. So again, I don't expect you to do this one because you probably don't have pulleys around your house. However, you can go to the internet and then go to the Compass Project again, and then this time type in pulleys, the pulley simulation. Okay, so when you open up that simulation, you're going to see a single pulley with a rope draped over it, and then you can change the pulley system. So you can have one pulley, two pulleys, and so forth. But for right now, we're just going to have a single fixed pulley. So that's what we want to have it set up for. Alright, then you can adjust the load like you could in the previous experiment where it says experiment setup and you've got the load there. So you can adjust the weight of that box down there at the bottom. You can adjust how high you want to lift the box. Make sure that the friction is set to 0. So don't do anything with the friction. And then I wouldn't do anything with the pulley diameter. So just leave that alone. So really all that you're going to be varying is the load and then how high you're trying to lift it. Now what you're going to be trying to figure out is how much force do I need to pull with, and then how much rope do I need to pull. So I'm going to be pulling down with a certain amount of force. You should be able to figure that out, and you should be able to figure out how much rope that you need to pull. Okay? So in part A of part 2 of the lab on the pulley, it says to assemble a single pulley system. So that's what you got. Okay, for each system, measure the weight, the force of gravity, or the load. It all means the same thing. So the weight of the box, the force of gravity on the box, the load of the mass being lifted, and it's going to be the same for all 3 systems. So you actually don't have a mass on this one, you have a load. So that means that that first column, mass lifted, you don't need to put anything in those yellow boxes. Now the one that's next to it, it says weight lifted, that's the load. So let's assume that the load is 5 newtons. So you're going to put 5 newtons in the yellow box that says weight lifted for the single pulley system. Okay, now the distance that it's going to be lifted is Z out, and that's going to be 0.1. So it's already set up that the distance that the box is going to be lifted is going to be 0.1 meters. Okay, now you can compute the work out. So go ahead and do that. If you know the weight that's being lifted and you know the distance it's being lifted, work is force times distance. So multiply the weight times the distance, and then that's going to be the work out. So fill in that spot. Okay, now we're going to go to the simulation, and you're going to hit the play button, and then you're going to grab the it's a hand up there. There's a hand that is attached to the pulley up where the yellow pulley is at. There's a hand. Okay, you're going to grab that hand and you're going to start to pull down. Okay, now as you pull down on it, you'll notice that the applied force begins to go up. So if you look under controls, it says applied force. It starts off at 0, but as you start to pull the hand down, you'll notice that that force begins to increase. Okay, keep pulling on it. Keep pulling until it starts to move. So at some point, you will be pulling on that rope hard enough that it will start to move. Okay, now you're going to record what the pulling force was. So under applied force, whatever that number is, you're going to put that there. Hint, it's 5. Okay, so the applied force should have been 5 newtons. All right, now look at how far down did it go. So in order to raise the weight 0.1 meters, how much rope did you have to pull? Well, it says distance pulled 0.1. So the pulling force was 5 newtons, which was exactly the same as the weight that you lifted. And then the pulling distance was 0.5 meters, which was exactly the same as how high you lifted the weight in the first place. Okay, go ahead and calculate the work done. So multiply the force times the distance, and that gives you the work done. Well, this was a pretty lousy machine because you had to put exactly the same amount of force into the machine that you got out, and you put in exactly the same amount of distance that you got out. So the only advantage of this machine would be that you could use your own weight to lift an object. So if you weigh 100 pounds, then you could apply 100 pounds of force to this machine. So that's actually pretty good. You'd save your back if you did this. So this one really wasn't a very good machine. Okay, so I'm going to stop the video, and then when we come back, we're going to go to a double pulley system.